Congratulations and thank you for giving your first TV interview to ET Now after taking over as the Deputy Governor of RBI. To begin with, you clearly have big shoes to fill in. What will be your agenda for the next 6 months going forward, and what are the likely item of change that you would like to bring about in the banking sector?
I think first of the agenda you have given me already. Then when the shoes are big and feet are small, so probably I should try to grow my feet so that it fits the shoes well. But anyway, that apart, I think what is essential, and I have always been a believer that there is a lot of premium on continuity. Is never should be idea in an organization that if someone is coming new, it means you shake everything and say that I'll change everything. RBI has been doing a lot of good work. A lot of things are at various stages, various degrees of progress. And as one of the DGs mandated with certain particular areas of functioning, my endeavor would be to carry all the work, good work which is going on there. To be very quickly like supervision. A lot of things in happening in Reserve Bank of India. We are moving towards the risk-based supervision. The scope is being enlarged. So that is something which will continue. When we come to the area of customer service, I think a lot of initiatives has been taken. Very soon RBI may come with a charter of the customer's right. That is something which is work in progress. Financial inclusion, you know, a massive program is presently underway. Reserve Bank of India has been in this for last 3-4 years. Substantial work has been done, but now much more is to be done on a much larger scale in a much shorter time. That will be another area. Other area under my remit would be on the entire gamut of the currency management. There are issues of, you know, the clean note policy, yes, or the problem of counterfeit notes, or the currency coin shortage which has been occupying the mind for some time. So these all would be the areas where I think the work will continue.
Okay, and in terms of the payments bank and the small banks, you've also been part of the Nachiket More committee, which had suggested that these will also help further push financial inclusion. So just wanted to understand on that front, how does it play into the financial inclusion plan, and is RBI also putting its mind to bring about more differential licensing, maybe a wholesale bank, an infra bank, or maybe a real estate bank going forward?
See, of course, is a big country, is a diverse need, geography is quite big. There would always be room for all kind of players. So more the players come, they see the value proposition in the financial inclusion, in all the related activities, it would always be a welcome thing to do. As far as Reserve Bank is concerned, see, as a regulator, our job is to provide a framework for the players to come, lay down the basic guideline, which has already been done to some extent. As you know, the framework for the payment banks and the small banks, small and medium, that has always been laid out. Now it is for the players to look at it, apply, get qualified. Obviously, these things will take some time. And as we move further, there would always be, since the basic intent is there to allow differentiated players in the arena, it will always be considered. But I think these are the things which would be taken as a measured steps, and that is what is important.
There is a very burning issue at hand right now, and that is the corporate governance as well as the asset quality situation, especially in PSU banks. And you have been part of the system. So do you think that a complete overhaul is required in both these fronts?
Again, I think I go back to my opening statement that for every situation, if we think that a complete overhaul is the only solution, that is not always either a right philosophy or a right way of looking at the things. These are all old institutions. They have been functioning for several decades, some of them for more than a century. So, but having said that, it will not be fair to deny that there are no issues. There are issues around it, and you must have seen that both government and Reserve Bank of India are seriously engaged with it. There are the issues of board governance, there are the issues of the splitting the post of chairman and managing director, the composition of the board of directors of public sector banks. I think all these issues at present are receiving quite an engaged attention from both the sides, from the government and as well as the Reserve Bank of India. So we should be confident that there would be meaningful outcomes in the time to come.
But I just wanted to understand, how do you make the bank chairman more responsible and accountable? And like you mentioned, even the revamp of the board level is required, and the government is looking at separating the post of the MD and the chairman, as well as also re-looking at the way the selection process is done. But do you think all these put together will really help nail the problem? Will it really help solve the problem at hand?
I think we should not have any reason to doubt that it will not. Ultimately, all these are components which are interlinked. See, you have a post of chairman which is separated from the day-to-day running of the post of the CEO or the managing director. You have a board which has a representation, from the say knowledgeable sections of the society, which can provide input and which can keep an oversight over the functioning of the bank. So I think if we take in components and say only this one component is done and the outcome would be achieved what we are intending, that is not the way of looking at it. But if all the components are there, if there is a eminent board, there is a good board governance, there is a separation of the post between the day-to-day management and the board oversight, I don't see any reason to doubt that why the outcome will not be good.
The compensation packages of PSU banks in comparison to the private peers, they say that it's much less compared to them. So do you think that is one idea that you would like to push with the government while you're at RBI? And how will it help change the situation?
See, this is something where there is no level you can decide that what is a good compensation level. I come back to your question. For the time being, I remove the public sector bank. I go to the private sector bank itself. In private sector banks, if you look at the universe, you may see the pay range which is from say 1 to 2x to 3x to 4x. It could be anything. So exactly just putting everything that because compensation package is very low and it is very high and that is the root of all the problems, I think that will be taking a too simplistic view. But having said that, yes, there is a room. I don't say, when you say make it comparable, then it's very difficult that what is the benchmark you are aiming at. There is no single benchmark. But yes, there is a room that from the present level, there can be more incentives, there can be more performance linked incentives, and I think it was earlier in couple of committee reports also it was mentioned. So I think the reality would be somewhere between the two extremes which we are talking about.
You have been the chairman of Bank of Baroda. You clearly know what is the ground reality at the moment. So do you see that the asset quality will improve at least in FY15, or you think that the pressure will continue for some more time in the system?
I think today you have determined to put everything to a date. You have come determined with that. No, see, whether it will be FY15 or it will be slightly spill over to FY16, these are more will be a guessing game. But yes, what is important that the asset quality had been a matter of concern, and we have discussed several times that there were several factors which has ultimately led to this situation, and we come back to again the external environment, the governance issue, the tenure of the top people in the particularly in the public sector bank, the entire the issue related to the infrastructure sectors, all those things are there. But point is that so many things now have been, people have looked into it. Some of the past, let's say, the deficiencies have been clearly realized. So what we can expect that there won't be a repeat of those kind of, shortcomings in the future. That would be reasonable to expect. The second thing, when we are talking about the external environment, so clearly there are now positive signs in the economy. The optimism is more, the confidence level is better. So these two things will remain interrelated. But I really can't say, I can't put a date that come March 15 and everything would be completely cured and there will be a drastic reduction in NPA level. I think believing those kind of things may not be realistic. But what I sense and see that the direction in which we are moving seems to be a right direction.
And if you were to talk about the latest scams that are coming in the forefront, especially in the PSU bank sectors, be it the syndicate bank and the recent fixed deposit scam involving again two banks, Dena Bank and OBC. So what are the steps? What steps is RBI taking on this front? Are you also conducting your own internal audit on these banks or maybe some more banks? And what steps are you planning to take to ensure that such cases don't happen going forward?
See, understand one thing. Number one, these are the cases, and I think we have mentioned it earlier also. Governor also mentioned while pronouncing the monetary policy that these are some of the cases of individual indiscretion. These are not indicating to any systemic issue or any organization-wide tendency. And when the individuals are there, human beings are there would always be some incidents which are more related to individual behavior. But having said that, Reserve Bank of India as a supervisor, it is a very elaborate supervision process which includes, as you know, it includes the inspection, it also includes the risk-based supervision, off-site, doing the thematic study whenever needed, doing a special scrutiny, also the forensic audit wherever needed. So, but understand one thing, what RBI does is a overall inspection. It doesn't do a transaction audit or a voucher audit or even the forensic audit for everything case. But there are agencies, there are auditors, there are internal auditors, concurrent auditors, statutory auditors, and Reserve Bank as a supervisor takes the feedback and evaluates the feedback which is received from all of them. Many of these things are done, which I think better done and not very much discussed in the public forum. But yes, RBI is always aware to, sensitive to all these developments and keeps on taking the appropriate steps as they are required.
So, but what action are you taking against these particular individuals or banks which have come under the limelight? Is RBI separately also looking at taking some action, some punitive action, anything?
See, whenever, as I mentioned, if I look to my previous answer, that whenever there is a requirement, even where is a need, RBI has done the thematic studies, has done the special audit, and there had been in past, you must have seen the penalties are pronounced and levied. So, after we assess the entire situation and whatever appropriate action is warranted within the framework, that will certainly be done. RBI cannot become a state function by taking a criminal action against anyone. That will be done by the people who are vested with that authority. But whatever is the mandate of RBI and provision, it will be done.
The fine that RBI levies on banks when there is some malpractice that is found, the law doesn't allow RBI to levy a very heavy fine. It's a very minuscule fine and it doesn't really deter banks from doing such malpractices again. So do you think that law per se needs to be changed? Maybe the fine that you can levy on banks should be much hefty so that the banks think twice before they do anything wrong?
See, everything has two sides, every coin has two sides. Number one, like which we were discussing about the compensation package. Similarly, it is also a similar issue. What kind of penalty, what level of penalty is appropriate? It is again something very subjective. The second thing is you have to understand the magnitude of the problem. Again, whether is a individual indiscretion or the entire organization wise, is there a tendency to do that kind of thing at the organization level, or is it an organizational philosophy, which at least in the context of Indian banking, I don't think so. I am not drawing any international comparisons or any such thing, but I don't think that any enterprise wide, that kind of, it is a deliberate kind of thing which does happen. So we have to be conscious of all those elements before we decide. Moreover, see, for a banking institution, what is more important is the act of penalty itself. Idea is the quantum of penalty, whether from what it is, even if it becomes 10 times, is it going to really impact the P&L of the bank, is, I think, is a mute issue. That is not the issue. But the very act of levying a penalty itself is sufficient to give the right message to the players in it.
RBI has its own internal team that looks into does inspection as well as supervision of banks' books. So just wanted to understand on that front, do you think that particular area also needs some amount of revamping, maybe more responsibility on the team that is looking into the bank's books, so that the cases don't just crop up somewhere else and RBI is able to detect them in a much better and earlier phase?
I think when I was replying to a previous question, I have spoken at greater length about it, that how the supervision function of Reserve Bank of India works. So I think that should be sufficient. I said some of these things are better done and not too much discussed in the public forum. But what I can say, yes, like banking, supervision is also always ever evolving function. As the new elements keep on adding to the banking, so the new elements keep on coming to the supervision. What Reserve Bank of India essentially does is to keep pace with the evolving situation and fine tune its own practices. But the unearthing of something or prevent everything, if it is so simple, I think not only in the context of banking or a banking transaction or a fraud, all over the world, if all the agencies which are expected to maintain that kind of discipline, and if they can achieve this kind of purpose, there won't be any crime in the world at all.
Yeah, that's true. But is RBI also looking to introduce maybe stricter laws when it comes to loan disbursal or appraisal? And most of these scams have brought into the limelight the role of brokers and middlemen. Do you think that is a practice that should be completely done away with?
Again, the drastic solution. Either they are there or not, they are not there. I think these are
they are the main problem at the moment. So
yes, but the point is, see, there are, to borrow the words from a governor only, that there are good middlemen, there are bad middlemen. See, these people also serve a purpose in the marketplace. If they are responsible people, ultimately is a large geography, as we have discussed, and there are clients in varying degree of having the financial sophistication. So it should not so happen that in our zeal to think that yes, this is something which should be completely done away with. It should not become for a client to find it difficult to do the banking, as they say. So what is required is to ensure that the good people are in the marketplace. What they are doing is a responsible job of bringing the client and banks together, and there could be modalities. Even as a self-governing body, there can be some thought at one point of time that maybe they may get themselves kind of accredited with the IBA or any such agencies. But these are just thoughts. I mean to say, these are the things which need to be thought through.
Okay, and focusing about consolidation, the finance minister has also supported the idea that consolidation should happen, especially in the PSU bank sector. So do you think that merging a smaller, weaker player with a bigger one will actually solve the problem on ground? What are your views on this?
See, it will be very important that which are the merging entities and what purpose they are serving. By merger, if the merged entity is having a wider geographical reach, it would be a good outcome. Or if they are achieving a broader product range, it would be a good outcome. Also, if there is a capital sitting which is not being used efficiently, and there is a deficiency of capital but the efficient use is possible, then again merger is meaningful. But if there are two banks which are both are having the same kind of problem, they are grappling with the same kind of problem, then probably that merger would not achieve any specific purpose. So consolidation is the need of the hour. We need few banks of a larger size, no denying the fact. What will be the important is to look at the individual entity level and see that the merger which is finally happening is compatible and it is bringing the result which is meaningful for both.
Moving on to customer service, just wanted to ask you one question on that, and that is the new rules that the RBI has put out when it comes to ATM transactions. While third-party transactions, if a particular individual is using another bank's ATM, I think it's fine to charge us. But charging your own customer, he's withdrawing his money from his bank account. Do you think it's fair? How do you justify this to your consumers?
Now, globally on an average, people transact 4 transactions in a month on ATM. Now, this gives you 8 transactions. Again, we have a larger purpose that society should move towards the cashless or at least less cash society.
Exactly.
And that is where again if you see the thought process that in urban and metro, now enough ecosystem has been created that one can move towards the less cash society. You have the debit card, you have the point of sales terminal, there is no need for everything you need to draw the cash. So that is where if something is charged for service being rendered, that is the justification, that is the logic. We don't see the same thing as happened in the urban and rural, semi-urban and rural area. So there is no charge because there is still need to increase the infrastructure and people have to have the alternate before we say that you don't draw much cash. So that is the second part. Third part of course is about the security issue and all that. If some of the work which should be done by a different entity, if banks are expected to share the cost of that, then ultimately they have to compensate for it. They are doing the business. So that's the another thing. And the fourth point is, as I said, globally 4 transaction, you can take double of that 8 transaction. But beyond that, ATM is not a plaything. It is an instrument which is provided as a customer convenience to be used with the sense of responsibility on the both sides.
But your predecessor had very clearly said that when it comes to charging customers for using their own ATM, that particular concept is ridiculous. That's the word he had used. So I just wanted to understand from your point, maybe this particular point of charging your customers for using their own bank's ATM, do you think that is something maybe RBI could relook at, because keeping in mind the consumer's point of view? Is that something that you should read?
I think I have spoken at such a great length on the whole issues, and of course the individual opinions are always important, and like most of the thing in the world, there will always be 2 viewpoints. If there are no 2 viewpoints, we will not be speaking to each other and discussing on any other point. But if you recollect what I said while replying to the previous question, like NEFT RTGS, at some point of time there was a model, as it perfected, it was reviewed. So Reserve Bank is always open to and always sensitive to the developments as the things happen, and the regulations can always be reviewed from time to time in view of the evolving situation.
Okay. And before I end, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. As far as the restructuring proposal of RBI is concerned, you're looking at restructuring and reorganizing, but the main problem out there that the unions are having is that it could lead to lateral hiring. So what is RBI's stance on lateral hiring per se?
I think Reserve Bank of India has already issued the detailed clarification on this. Reserve Bank of India has been doing lateral hiring. Moreover, I don't know where from you get the sense that someone is uncomfortable, someone is comfortable.
The unions, that's what we heard.
As an organization, I think we have been speaking to all the constituents at length, and a lot of clarity is there in everyone's mind. So coming to your question, not that Reserve Bank of India has not been hiring people laterally. It has always been done even in the past. There is a framework is there. It is done within that framework. It is done very sparingly. Is not a very large number of kind of things. And I think whatever proposals are there, they are all within the same framework.
Okay. And I also wanted to get a macro view from you. Do you think that the need of the hour is to control inflation by keeping tight monetary policy rather than cutting rates if we want long-term sustainable growth? What is your view on this?
I think the governor has been several times it has been articulated that inflation should be controlled. I think there will not be any dispute of no constituency in the country would say that no, inflation should be high. So inflation has to be under control, and for a sustainable growth, the inflation at a moderate level is eminently desirable. I think this is what the policy stance has been articulated by governor from time to time.
All right. And lastly, before I end the interview, I wanted to understand how has your transition been from being chairman of one of the largest PSU banks to being a deputy governor. Out there you were looking after one bank. Out here you're looking at all the banks in the banking system. So what does the view look like from Mint Street?
I would say that, see, when you are a player in the industry, you have more a worm's eye view. When you come to the Mint Street, and I happen to sit on, the floor where I am, so it allows you to have a bird's eye view. And when you can mix a worm's eye view with the bird's eye view, I think what is exciting, which I feel personally exciting, that with this kind of combination, you can do something which is meaningful for the industry, which is meaningful for the country. And we are at exciting time in the the passage of our country, where so many things are happening. There are so many possibilities to do and contribute, and that is how I look at it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time to ET Now. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.